And a very good evening to all of you out there on the interwebs. My name is James Donnelly, and you are entering the Shadow Gallery for what is a review of, for me personally, the the most anticipated comic book movie since the Avengers, uh, and of course, that is, as you can tell, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Um, I'm going to do this is both a spoiler free, and then I will let you know when you can stop watching, and then a spoiler heavy review of this film. Uh, let's just run down some of the main elements that put this film together. Um, it's directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, who I had literally never heard of these people before, but they came some to some popularity, or at least some knowledge of their existence, through doing episodes of Community. Um, Now, I have not seen more than one episode of Community, so don't get down my ass for that. I know it's supposed to be a great show. I did not really care for the episode that I saw. Um, but anyway, neither here nor there. It is written by, this was written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who wrote the first Captain America, the First Avenger, and also co-wrote with Christopher Yost Thor: The Dark World. Essentially, Marcus and McFeely have become kind of the Stephen S. Goyer of the Marvel universe. Is that they're kind of found everywhere, or at least in a lot more films. Joss Whedon is kind of like the godfather of the Marvel. It's like, well, he's kind of like the go-to guy, I would say. Jon Favreau, I would call kind of the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but because he helped to really shape it. Uh, but Joss Whedon is kind of like he's kind of like the all father, I guess, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, this film basically follows it follows Captain America slash Steve Rogers, being reprised, of course, by Chris Evans, who played him so beautifully in the first film, joining forces with the likes of Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, being again also reprised by Scarlett Johansson, in her third appearance now as well as Chris. Has been in 3 films. Also a new. I'm sorry. Let's first also with Nick Fury, of course. Sam, Sam the Man, Samuel L. Jackson, who this is now. Just trying to think here. So Iron Man 2, The Avengers, um, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., uh, and now this film. So, I mean, this is his 4th appearance as Nick Fury. Um, but is also joined in this adventure by a new hero, a former pararescue soldier, um, named Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, who is being played here by Anthony Mackie. Um, and Also along for the ride are uh, Robert Redford, the great Robert Redford, as Alexander Pierce, who's kind of he's not the director of Shield. He's like this. I'm not really sure exactly what his role is. He's kind of like the secretary of the World Security Council. So he's above Nick, but he is he doesn't run Shield, but he definitely has an office there. Um, we also have returning Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill. We have the character of Brock Rumlow, played by Frank Grillo, who you may know from films like The Grey and Warrior. And of course, you have returning as well Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. You also have Emily Van Camp, who I do not know from anything else, who plays Agent 13. And there's also Sebastian Stan returning. Basically, this film is a definitely modern day take on the 70s era political thrillers. It's the superhero. To me it's kind of like 3 Days of the Condor if it starred Captain America instead of Robert Redford's characters. That's one of the things that was so great about the casting of Robert Redford, is that he kind of made his bones doing a lot of, doing some of these films, doing these kind of 70s political thrillers like 3 Days of the Condor and All the President's Men, which isn't necessarily a thriller per se, but it definitely involves political intrigue. So, I mean, these are some of the films that made him a huge star. The film ultimately is about Cap's naivete, if you will, in this new world, and how his past is literally trying to kill him, as the rise of Hydra seems to once again threaten the world, and Hydra's main agent is a Cold War myth known as the Winter Soldier, who has been apparently committing assassinations for about 50 years. Now, it's about, again, there's so many things this film is about, but more than anything, it is about, like I said, it's about Cap trying to maintain his view of the world as a place where good is always going to triumph over evil, no matter what the cost, as long as it preserves the freedom of those people. And that freedom is in danger of being taken away, not only by the bad guys, but by the good guys. So, of course, the fact that this film is released now, on the heels of, the Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks, about the surveillance programs, it's just, it's very, very timely and kind of creepy, but also kind of, again, also a throwback to kind of this Orwellian, almost police state. And Cap has to stay, Cap, with the assistance of figures like Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff and Sam Wilson, has to stay ahead of basically the enemy within. I have seen the enemy, and it is us. Because I don't want to spoil anything in this portion of it, I won't tell you exactly what that means. But let's just call it like it is. This film is not only Marvel's best film since, with the exception of the Avengers, it is its best made film, it's its best structured film, save the Avengers, and I would dare say it is, well, I wouldn't dare say this, but it is easily its most thought-provoking. Because you're not accustomed to leaving a superhero film, with some exceptions, of course, mainly a film like The Dark Knight, where you're left asking questions about what you've just seen, where it creates, well, I mean, it adds to a debate that obviously already exists, just like The Dark Knight had some parallels in the day that it came out about, intrusiveness, into people's daily lives. I mean, that was, kind of a very small thing. People talk a lot about The Dark Knight and its parallels to the Iraq and Afghanistan war and the Patriot Act, and some people have even dared to call it a defense of that, which is complete bullshit. We all know that, but again, it's even, I mean, from a technical standpoint, this is, and from a movie going standpoint, I would say that this is almost better than the Avengers, because with the Avengers, you know exactly what you're going to get. There's never a moment where you think to yourself, "Ooh, what is going to happen next?" I mean, obviously there are some surprises. Of course, the biggest one involving Phil Coulson. But you know that this team, no matter what their differences are, they're going to coalesce, they're going to get together, and they're going to defeat the bad guys. That's part and parcel what you have to expect with a film like that. With this film, however, this film not only is the Marvel Universe's Dark Knight up to this, at least as far as this point is concerned, because this is really the only kind of character that you can really explore some of these issues with, because of the way that, just simply because of the way that he does view the world, and the people that he has to interact with, because he works for SHIELD. That is what he does, and so it's having that knowledge, he knows that he has to work within the system, and he's not sure of the system's truth. So it's hard to maintain his view when so many things that he did believe in start to implode and twist and turn on themselves. Everybody in this film is absolutely great. Chris Evans, not the performance of his career, certainly, but it's his best work yet as Captain America. Obviously, tonally, this is a much, much different film from the first Avenger. Now, I did have the benefit of seeing gloriously a double feature of the first Avenger and the Winter Soldier today, back to back in the theater, which was awesome. However, the thing that did kind of not suck, but I preferred another option was that the only way to see this double feature was to see it in 3D. The 3D in basically both of these films is nothing to write home about. It is really, you can tell you could tell it was post converted. It makes the opening sequence on a boat look much darker than it actually is. I actually was able to watch the first 10 minutes of this film on my phone when it was briefly leaked onto the internet, and I could see perfectly on the phone. And here I am on a big screen. I've paid $20 a ticket to see this, and I'm watching it in 3D, and there was so much stuff that was going on in this sequence that I couldn't see because it's so dark. Because it obviously takes place at night, it's a nighttime incursion. Anyway, I'll get more to that probably in the spoiler edition portion. Sam Jackson does, easily kind of his coolest work is Nick Fury here. This is the Nick Fury that you've kind of been waiting for, where he actually gets to do something like really truly badass other than just be, just to kind of convey the aura of a badass. He does things that are bad fucking ass, and it's awesome. Scarlett Johansson, again, this is the best work that she's done yet as the Black Widow, as Natasha Romanoff, because there are unplumbed emotional depths that we finally get to in this film with her character. Anthony Mackie, who I've loved since I saw him in The Hurt Locker, does a fantastic job as Sam Wilson. He is beyond perfect for this role. He's just amazing in this movie. Robert Redford, there's no way in hell that this guy is phoning this in. He's superb. Sebastian Stan, again, I'll get a little more into that in the spoiler part of this review, but he's terrific. He's has certainly a lot more physical things to do here. And just everybody that's in it is good. And it has not one, but two post-credit sequences. And one of which maps out, because one of them was directed by Joss Whedon, and it maps out basically, it helps to map the way for Age of Ultron, for Avengers Age of Ultron. And then you have a second one, which happens after all the credits, which paves the way essentially for the next Captain America film. And wow, just a no doubt 10 out of 10. This is a great movie. The action sequences are directed with such energy and such verve, and with a real sense of space. And the writing is crisp and never feels incredibly overly cliched at any real point. They don't backpedal away from the more emotional beats of this. They don't seem to be too trapped in some of the confines of just, okay, well, this is a big superhero tentpole movie, so we have to make it like a big superhero tentpole movie. It's an incredible night out at the movies. It really is. Because it is one of those rare action movies that does make you also think. some of the interplay is a little bit perfunctory. I would have liked to have seen more of Emily Van Camp as Agent 13. She doesn't even give her real name in this film, even though fans of Captain America know who this is and how important she is to the character of Captain America. I mean, even Brock Rumlow, has more, moments. And those of us who watch, or who are Cap fans, will know Brock Rumlow as Crossbones. This does not adhere very strictly to the Ed Brubaker, Steve Epting plot of The Winter Soldier, because it's kind of they really kind of took this idea of the Winter Soldier and made a somewhat new narrative to build around this character and what he is and what he does, and more importantly, who he works for. And it's just glorious. I mean, it's just an amazing film. Easily, like I said, Marvel's best standalone film. Its best film since the Avengers. Stop listening to me right now if you haven't seen it, and go out and see it. And for those of you who have come, I do want to thank you for watching, because this is the point where I am going to start to get into spoiler territory. I'm going to start breaking down specific scenes, talking about specific plot moments. And so if you don't know them, don't watch. Okay? Because, like I said, it's going to be pretty spoiler heavy from right here out. So, again, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. There will be more to come, because I do this on occasion, especially with a summer of so many big films. You're going to see me a lot this summer, because we've got, three other films right off the top of my head. You have Godzilla that's coming out next month. Also next month, on Memorial Day weekend is going to be X-Men Days of Future Past. And then later on this summer, August 1st, is, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'll be seeing all of those, and I'll be telling you all about those later. So thanks for stopping by, and like I said, if you don't want any more spoilers, feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you later. Are they gone yet? Okay, so if you're still here, that means that you've seen the film and you want to talk about the spoilers. Okay, so first off, not much really to spoil in the opening scene, but just lovely to have the character of Batroc. And what a sequence! What an amazing opening sequence between. With Cap and Widow and the tactical team led by Rumlow, taking on all of these pirates. Now, of course, we have this nice, I can't remember the exact name of the ship. It's like Lemurian Star or something like that. But, of course, I hear Lemurian. I think Lemuria, which I don't know if that's like a cousin to Namor, or if like his daughter or an enemy or something. I don't know, but it makes me think of course, Atlanteans, and again, just expanding the universe even more, or just giving shouts out to other areas of the universe that they might not yet explore. But I mean, the fight sequence alone between Cap and Batroc is pretty amazing and pretty wonderful. And of course, having a character like Batroc, who is someone who is very much ingrained in the history of Captain America, is really cool. The the sequence that I was talking about, as far as with Nick Fury, where he gets to be, in super badass mode, and where he's first confronted by the Winter Soldier. Hey, okay. I mean, look, if you don't know who the Winter Soldier is by now, and you're still watching this, then you're kind of fucked. But, to see the Winter Soldier standing there and having that little, kind of magnetic mine that he uses after, because this is the cleanup guy. It's like he's brought in when everything else has gone wrong. If the first team hasn't done their job. And that, like I said, that moment with Nick, in the car is just, I mean, it's hilariously funny for one thing, because, the onboard computer keeps talking to him. But, just when Nick Fury starts to get scared, then that's when shit has just hit the fan. This is what comic fans, this film essentially amounts to what comic fans would call an event comic film. It's an event comic book film, because we always, I mean, every year Marvel and DC put out their big kind of crossover event comic, or almost every year. They put out their big kind of, crossover event that's supposed to totally, change everything forever. And almost always it's a big crock of shit. Nothing ever changes forever, first of all. Especially in comic books, when you have years and years and years that you're working with. And that it will be going on for more and more and more years. So, I mean, things have to go back to the status quo after at least, a year or two. But this is ultimately a status quo shattering film. Because, I mean, the big reveal, that when they do find the bunker at Fort Lehigh, which I thought was just, it was a really cool moment, that, kind of coming back, how it seems to really point to Cap's past, that there's something from his past literally trying to get him. And it just so happens that it's not one, but two people from his past, one that was an enemy and one that was his best friend. And we have the introduction of Dr. Arnim Zola being reprised here by Toby Jones. Admittedly, only really on computer screens, which, again, fans of Captain America understand that, and how cool that is, because, I mean, what is Arnim Zola? He's a big robot that has, this basically a television for a face. His face is on this big kind of television, set body, or chest area, whatever you'd want to call it. And that he reveals that since the beginning, Hydra has always been a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. So when Fury says, after he's shot by the Winter Soldier, when he says, don't trust anyone, he doesn't know the extent of how much he can't trust anyone, because of how deeply ingrained Hydra is into S.H.I.E.L.D's infrastructure. Now, the use of this project with the 3 helicarriers was a really kind of very interesting kind of plot point, and a really interesting kind of weapon. And I mean, there's just so many sequences in this film. I mean, the sequence where you first are confronted with the truth of this, and then you find out not only is Jasper Sitwell of course, being reprised here by Maximiliano Hernandez. Uh, that such a famous character from the book is a double agent for Hydra. Um, and the interrogation scene between Cap and Widow and Falcon is just so awesome. um, where he kind of starts to find out how far it does go. In one of those areas, of course, we have the wonderful cameo by Gary Shandling, reprising his role as Senator Stern. I remember reading a tweet from Patton Oswalt saying that you will shit, paraphrasing here, you will shit at the first person who says "Hail Hydra," because stupidly I went on Flixster basically to actually find out showtimes for tonight and to buy my tickets. But I was just kind of scanning through some of the professional reviews that are on Rotten Tomatoes, and the first line of one of them is just, "It's worth it just to hear Robert Redford say Hail Hydra." And I'm like, fuck you, man. I mean, of course, we know that Robert Redford isn't going to be the good guy. Just from that very intimidating scene that he has with Cap when they first basically meet. And then, that great scene where the Winter Soldier's at Pierce's house with the maid and everything like that. I mean, that's a really creepily effective scene. And the sequence on the bridge with, just amazingly crazed, awesome, combat sequence with Widow and Cap and Falcon against against the Hydra team and the Winter Soldier when Cap first goes up against him is fucking insane and awesome and beautiful. It's just so well done. You really get a sense of strength. That's definitely one area that this film steps up with, as far as the action. It's not quite. It's not as quote unquote quaint as the previous film. This is a more aggressive Cap. It seems to be a stronger Cap. Just from the first fight scene alone, where he's kicking people like 20 feet. You got some of that in the first Avenger, but not to this degree, where people are being thrown around and tossed around. He's he's obviously studied some martial arts. Again, going back to that fight with Batroc, which was so beautiful, because most of it was shot in a very kind of almost Asian filmmaking style, Asian kind of kung fu, wuxia films, whatever you'd want to call them. That is from kind of some of it's kind of from a distant angle, so that you could see them doing their moves and things like that. And it's not like it's just this hectic hurdy-gurdy editing or anything like that, where there's a lot of inserts and a lot of close-ups. There are, to be sure, of course, but it seems like, some American directors do get that shit right. The first ones to really get it right, at least in this day and age, were the Wachowskis, with the Matrix films, and showing that, yes, these fights, how beautifully choreographed they are and everything like that, just to show kind of their sheer power. To see Peggy again was really heartrending, and really poignant and really beautiful. And I love kind of how that's in that's kind of Cap's retreat zone. It's like he, you know, because where he's just come from, you know, he's just had to deal with Fury and, you know, all of his, you know, bullshit, and learning about this project with the helicarriers, and, you know, it has kind of, you know, this redesign, you know, it has, you know, these, you know, Stark, you know, the Stark tech on it, and you know, just kind of having to deal with this level of secrecy and this level of paranoia. You know, so he kind of retreats back to his safety zone, which is the past, and literally he's going into his own past to escape that kind of the, you know, the all too present paranoia of, you know, who's watching me, who's watching you. Is it right that you're watching me? Is it right that this punishment is exactly, you know, coming after the crime? You know, preemptive strikes. I mean, yes, you know, you could say that this film has something to say about, you know, the use of drones and things like that. I mean, that is, you know, kind of, you know, goes along with the idea of, you know, these huge helicarriers. They're basically giant drones, for lack of a better term. I mean, they have specific targets that they're supposed to be taking out. But like I said, I mean, the more, you know, of course, just seeing and having that great moment with, you know, ripped right from the book, when, I mean, ultimately in the book, when the line is said, it's not from Captain America. Well, no, it is, actually. I'm sorry. When Cap sees Bucky's face for the first time and says, you know, Bucky, and the Winter Soldier just replies, "Who the hell is Bucky?" And so there isn't like the bombing of Philadelphia that was in the comic or anything like that. And it's awesome to see Ed Brubaker as quote unquote scientist number 2. He's the only in the kind of Winter Soldier, you know, in the scene with all the technicians and with Pierce and everything like that. He's the science. He's the bald guy with the beard and the glasses that doesn't talk. He doesn't have any lines, but just to have him present in the face of one of his own kind of creations. Obviously, he didn't create the character Bucky, but he resurrected him to be this great villain / inevitable, you know, ultimately will become a, you know, a very traumatized hero. It was just really neat to see that. And of course, you know, you have Stan's cameo, which is kind of fun. But then there's, you know, there's the fights, you know, there is the third act big scene. I mean, of course, you know, I mean, you have scenes like moments on the elevator where people just keep getting on, and then, you know, Steve obviously just knows, okay, something's about to happen, and it's not going to be good for these people. And you get the sense still at that point, even in that scene, where, yes, there's something bad going on, but I don't know if these guys, they just seem to be under orders to stop Cap rather than to try and kill him or anything like that. That there's no mention of Hydra yet at this point in time. But, you know, but then you, like I said, this third act, I mean, as much as these really cool things happen during it, as far as, you know, from, you know, with Cap, you know, just doing kind of the, you know, the running and fighting and jumping, and that, you know, that was also a brilliant, amazing, wonderful moment in the film where he is essentially escaping the Triskelion, and then comes up against the Quinjet that's trying to stop him, and he just, I mean, it's all of these moments of Cap that are so awesome and cool that you see in the comics that you're getting to see in real life. I mean, I'm sure that pretty much almost all of that was CG, but I mean, it's so beautiful and so well done. I mean, because I just sat there just like, I mean, it was just, I mean, just scenes like that, but I mean, I'm sorry, the real star of the third act is Falcon. I mean, there's just no question. I mean, this whole sequence, I mean, with him being chased and just, with flying around and just doing all this incredible shit. I mean, it just takes your breath away. I mean, I almost wish that the film had been 15 more minutes of him, flying away from rockets and, being shot at. And I mean, because the way that he uses the exo suit, and the two machine pistols that he has. I mean, it's so fucking cool, man. I mean, it's definitely obviously much more of a, Ultimates design rather than than the classic Falcon design. But I mean, shit. I mean, originally Falcon didn't even have wings. He just had this green, suit on that just looked kind of silly. But what the film really does so well is cement the bond between these two soldiers, between Cap and the Falcon. That he has someone else that that has got his back. And also, the chemistry between him and Natasha has never been more spot on. To be perfectly honest, I was kind of hoping that they would get together at the end of this, but I mean, ultimately, there is, kind of more of a, there's still, leaving that door open as far as romantic interests are concerned for, sorry, the hair was distracting me, for Sharon Carter. To come in and really kind of be that for Steve. But that was just me. That was just my own kind of personal, because I just love the chemistry between these two characters, and I like the idea of this former Russian spy / assassin getting together with the ultimate American Boy Scout, if you will. Of course, and Cap has his great kind of St. Crispin's Day speech where, he commandeers the PA, in the Triskelion. And it's a very tense movie. I mean, the action is very tense and intense, because you really feel like, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. The resurrection of Nick Fury was it's like, yeah, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. When they're being arrested and transported, I thought it was going to be Nick in one of those guard costumes, and I was actually happier that it was Hill. That was just a really cool moment, because it not only gave her something to do, but it gave her something to do that was really cool, and that furthers her character. Sadly, there's no other real cameos from any of the other heroes in this film, because you already have, a big, you have, Nick and Natasha are pretty major supporting characters in this film, so it doesn't need to have any other Avengers. But the finale of the third act was, really, really hit home. It was just painful to watch, to see, first, initially, Cap fighting his best friend who still doesn't know who he is, and then Cap ultimately letting him trounce him because he knows there's got to be a way to get him back. And if this isn't it, what is? Because, I mean, obviously in the comic, we had that great, you have the greatest MacGuffin of all comic book MacGuffins, which is the Cosmic Cube. But, that has been replaced by the Tesseract, and the Tesseract is back in Asgard. But, that kind of wish fulfillment, kind of aspect of the Cosmic Cube and what it can do, it needed to be handled in a more, dare I say, realistic way, even if it involves, Cap, being beaten so badly and then falling probably about 200 feet out of a damaged helicarrier and into the water, only to be dragged out by, this man who was just moments before trying to kill him. So when Cap is shot and clearly in his belly, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to do like Cap's death right here? Because the persistent rumors, or the news, I don't even know if it's actually gone beyond rumors as actual news now, but that Sebastian Stan has signed on for like 9 Marvel film appearances, or some number. It's very high. It's a very high amount of films that he's going to be in. That eventually the understanding is that this will in some way follow the the Brubaker arc that was created for Cap, with the death of Captain America and ultimately Bucky taking his place, wielding the shield. So if that's the case, I'm actually all for that, because Sebastian Stan is really cool. I mean, obviously intensely physical. Again, obviously the character, I am very much looking forward to, as we see in the second post-credit sequence, him rediscovering his past, and ultimately coming to Cap's aid, because obviously with the end of the film we have this set up for what will be the next film, is that they're going to be or even, who even knows if this will be part of Age of Ultron, that Cap will break off to join the search of to search for Bucky and to bring him back, and who knows what that'll even be called. But I mean, the thing that I'm kind of brushing right past here without even talking about is that this is essentially the end of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, what the hell is the show going to do? I mean, that's a really big and important question, is that how does this now bleed into the television show that is called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we can't assume anything about anybody, with the exception of maybe Phil Coulson at this point, who might or might not be an agent of Hydra and who's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because, as we see in this film, Jasper Sitwell, he's a Hydra agent. As we saw on the show, and those of you who haven't seen the show yet, this most recent episode with the Clairvoyant, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm going to anyway. The reveal of Victoria Hand possibly being, maybe she's the Clairvoyant, or maybe she works for the Clairvoyant, or ultimately the Clairvoyant is maybe Robert Redford's character. I don't know. And how awesome was that? I mean, I was really hoping it was actually Jenny Agutter that was doing all of the shit in Pierce's office, when they're all brought there. But, when it's revealed to be Natasha, I'm like, that is a really cool spy thing to do. And of course, kind of everybody at the end, with the exception of Widow and Cap and Falcon, all kind of doing their, I've got to change jobs type of thing, because since S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore, and one can only assume that the next round of films uh, will be standalones, but will be also introducing new characters. I mean, because not only do we have Guardians of the Galaxy coming up later this year, but we have in 2015, we have Age of Ultron. We don't know how that's, I mean, that's going to be primarily focused on Ultron, the threat of Ultron, and we will also have Ant-Man in 2015, who has nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. at all, at least to the best of my knowledge. But what then happens? They're obviously now, I mean, since the name was even dropped, I would like to pause. There's that the moment of the film where they're where it's cataloging all of the targets that are threats against Hydra. I'd like to pause and kind of go frame by frame through that sequence so that I can see all the different names that are included in there, because I know, I mean, I remember seeing the president, I remember seeing Anthony Stark's name, but of course, you know, the name drop that Jasper Sitwell makes of Stephen Strange obviously means they've got a Doctor Strange movie in the works. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go with a name like, you know, and maybe that's in that kind of target list. You know, again, kind of go through it frame by frame. You might see names like Luke Cage or Danny Rand or Matt Murdock. I mean, they already have, you know, Drew Gott. You know, I mean, they've already announced the series. So, I mean, that's not getting a lot of talk, and it should be, because, you know, that's, you know, the Netflix exclusives and everything like that, and I mean, that's going to be really big. It's going to be a really big deal to have solo, you know, however many episode shows of, you know, Daredevil, of Jessica Jones, of Luke Cage, of, you know, Iron Fist, and then ultimately bring them all together into Defenders. You know, so I mean, they've got, I mean, however they're going to, you know, of course, you know, Nick Fury is going to be playing a much smaller role from almost here on out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But, you know, obviously Cap is going to be back, Widow is going to be back, Falcon, even though I think he is not part of Age of Ultron. I don't think that he is. But, you know, now seeing that, you know, Maria Hill's gone over to, you know, she's gone over to Stark Industries and is applying for a job there. You know, Agent 13 is, she's working for the CIA. And it's just, you know, and see Brock Rumlow's kind of roasted, unconscious body being taken away, and that's super cool because, like, well, he lived, so he's going to be Crossbones now. And how will that factor in? Because you just have to know at some point in time that the Red Skull has got to come back, right? Because, you know, you just can't keep a villain like that down for too long. But anyway, of course, really quickly want to talk about the Joss Whedon directed post-credit sequence, which we know which one that was. Now, of course, we have Thomas Kretschmann, you know, head shaved, you know, got kind of the monocle thing going, who, of course, is going to be Baron von Strucker in Age of Ultron. And then we have, you know, the shot of, you know, it was so kind of, because there were people that were talking in the theater, and also Kat was kind of talking to me, my wife was kind of talking to me while this moment was going on, because I'm like, and she's like, what is this, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, shut up. But it's so hard to make kind of a sense of what these people are saying to each other, but what they're saying is not nearly as important as what you see. And of course, you see Loki's scepter on this table. Are they trying to maybe reconstruct like an Earthbound version of the Tesseract? Maybe creating a cosmic cube? I don't know. Is the doorway, is Thanos still kind of lingering out there? And the introduction of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. We do see Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen there for the first time. Certainly not fully in character yet, but I mean, you have Quicksilver zipping around his little cell, and you have Scarlet Witch doing her thing with the blocks, and it's like, oh, I can't wait. I mean, it's just so fucking cool. And I mean, there wasn't a moment. I mean, this movie was 2 hours, I think 20, and it felt like nothing. I mean, it felt like no time had gone by. It just was. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is the best, the most well-made Marvel film to date. Because it doesn't just... I mean, God bless the Avengers. I love the Avengers. I will watch it all the time. I don't know how many times I've seen it now. It's got to be nearing 30, if not more. But shit, I mean, I've seen First Avenger twice in the last 2 days. I actually watched the riff tracks last night, which was really fun. So seeing it, in the theater today, I kept thinking of a lot of the jokes that they were doing, and that the riff tracks guys did for First Avenger. And I was like, oh, that's a good one. But and I've seen the First Avenger quite a few times. More than any of the other, with maybe the exception of Iron Man, more than any of the other solo films. And like I said, the Avengers, while of course being unbelievably great film and just being everything you want from a comic book film, from a comic book epic film, I would say, it doesn't, it is, like I said, it's there to be what it is. It isn't marketed as being any different than what it's set out to do. It's going to bring these heroes together. It's going to give them a situation where only they can deal with it, and they're going to win. And that's just it. You know that. You know that from the get-go. There's a lot of guessing in this film as you go along, which is one of the things I love so much about it, is that you're never quite sure what's going to happen. You have kind of an idea, but still, it's like this film feels so subversive for a Marvel film, because they've been really just kind of going kind of pleasantly along the grain, making audiences happy for the most part. Of course, Iron Man 2 upset some people. Iron Man 3 upset other people. It seems like there's a weird balance there. So I think the people that were pissed off by 3 liked 2, and people that hated 2 liked 3. And I'm definitely of the party that I didn't hate 3, and I didn't love 2, but 2 is really a much better film than 3. And I think it's a much better film than people get credit for. But anyway, so that's it. I'm done. We're almost at an hour, and I've been analyzing this film enough for one night. So, if you have seen it, good for you. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about this movie. Did it meet your expectations? Were you frustrated by it? Did it exceed your expectations? Did you have to feel that you had to lower your standards? what did you think about? What did you think? Just what did you think about the film? What did you think about what we're discussing here in the spoiler section? Of course, you can always follow me on Twitter to let me know. I'm at Donnelly92274. On Facebook, I'm James Donnelly. Just find me. You'll see my picture there. I'm the one cosplaying as the 10th Doctor. Yeah. And of course, I'm here. So I hope to hear from you and hear your thoughts about the film, what you thought about the film, what you thought about certain parts. Leave a novel. I don't care. Leave a video response for all I care. Just let me know how you felt, and because I would love to read it, I'd love to see it, I'd love to hear I'd like to know your thoughts about this film. But that's it. So I want to thank you all very, very much who sat through the spoiler-fueled end of this this review segment. This has been... there's so much to talk about. I feel like I still have only barely scratched the surface. But I don't want to make this video longer than the film itself. So I want to thank you again. This is James Donnelly signing off and reminding you, as always, to stay in the shadows. Good night.